In the first episode, we were welcomed by Scott Winter. Scott, how are you doing today?
Good, Donnie. How are you, man?
Very good. So, Scott, what got you into acting?
In high school, I spent a lot of time in marching band and concert band. I was a percussionist, and so I spent the springs playing in the pit orchestra for our spring Broadway musicals. And that was at a big school, so we did Oklahoma one year, we did Wizard of Oz, we did Fiddler on the Roof, various different productions. So I was exposed to theater, and some friends as I got older were acting and had leads, and so I auditioned and started getting some parts, and then I was active in theater in college, a little bit of acting, a lot of tech stuff, sound and production stuff. And then as a young adult, I started acting with a couple of local community theaters to do some Broadway musicals and some stage plays. So it really just kind of became a hobby for me, an opportunity for me to do something that wasn't my job, something that wasn't my family, and have some fun, and kind of as a release for me.
Now, you mentioned stage performance. Is there a particular play that you enjoyed doing more? Like, which ones did you enjoy and for what reasons?
Well, I enjoyed them all for different reasons. If I had to pick a favorite, I would have to say it would be A Christmas Carol. In 2013, I acted with a company called Hot Knob Theater Company in Western PA, and was given the opportunity to play Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, and that was just a ton of fun. It was a budding theater company. It was their first major production. Really fun people in the cast, and got a really different perspective on Scrooge from playing him than I'd had from all of the countless hours watching movies and reading Dickens' novel. So that was probably my favorite stage play. Favorite musical probably would be Cinderella, just because it was a fun, goofy role that I had, and I'm a goofball anyway, so it gave me a chance just to kind of have some fun and enjoy the slapstick humor on stage.
Now, we're going to jump from Scrooge to another Scrooge in Visions of Truth.
Okay.
What was it like for you, first of all, playing a detective and in that role? And second of all, how would you say that you, what did you do differently from the first film, Memory Lies, to the second, Visions of Truth?
The first film, I don't know if any of us really fully understood our characters. Like, it was a short film, so there wasn't a whole lot of character development. We've talked about this, that the depth of the character was like right there. But then by the second film, I felt like I kind of knew Detective Gregg, a little bit better, and knew a little bit more about who he was. From the first film to the second film, I felt like it was the evolution of Detective Gregg too, because he went from making an impulsive mistake in going after a perpetrator to having made that mistake and wanting to make everything right, and seeking revenge on the guy that actually did it, on Brenner. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it yet. So in the first movie, I felt like Greg was maybe not a rookie, but young and maybe impulsive, and by the second one, he realized he'd made a mistake, and he was going to do everything he could to make it right and to get revenge on Brenner. So I felt like there was an evolution of sorts there.
Mm-hmm. Well, spoiler, I'm the director, so I'm going to take a director's side from this. So I thought it was interesting how in the first film, Memory Lies, now this was unplanned, of course, the whole thing was unplanned, where you had the goatee. Of course, that might have been a little bit planned, okay? But it's amazing how you went from the goatee, from being right, inclined, kind of clean-shaved a little bit, from when you were wrong in that desperate search for Brenner. This massive beard, man. Like, did you hit like Rogaine or like, was
Rogaine. Revenge, the desire for revenge does strange things to people. No, it actually was funny because I think it worked out well in many ways, because Greg was coming apart at the seams, and the hair everywhere and the beard and all of that was unintentional, but I think it played well, especially early in Visions of Truth, because it was reflective of a man who was really losing control of things because of his desire for revenge. So went from clean cut to holy crap, and then by the end of the movie we got it all controlled, and Greg got his man and cleaned things up a little bit.
Is there anything you do different about your character now that you've seen the film and know more about the plot? Because I know I kept a lot of details from you guys during filming, and by a lot, I mean a lot. Some days we'd show up, and of course you can speak for yourself if I was a good director or not, but some days I'd show up, and sometimes I'd give you extra scripts that you didn't have in your script.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'd show up with extra scripts, and you haven't read the script yet.
Yeah.
So, getting back to the question, is there anything that you changed now that you saw the film or that you do differently in production?
I think other than a different director and a different producer, no, I'm just kidding. I don't really think there was a whole lot I would change. I did have to kind of learn Greg a little bit, like you said, on the fly, because sometimes things did change, and even if you'd given us all a full script book, that doesn't mean it's not going to get edited and revised during the project. So that being said, I'm always critical of how I deliver lines or physical acting, which is probably one of my weaknesses as an actor. Anybody who knows what they're doing and watches me would probably pick apart my physical acting, particularly the face and the eyes, but I don't think it would really change much. Hopefully the next time I would play Greg or anybody else, I'll be able to kind of get a little bit better at some of those things that I'm not so good at.
Now, you're one of the veterans of the crew, you and Jack. And we had a lot of new actors that came in. Like Mike, it was his first time on screen. Catherine, it was her first time on screen. And Klaus, we might not. For those of you that don't know Klaus, we will interview Jack Teacher. He will give you the full lowdown on Klaus Malone. First of all, how did you like working with the veterans and the rookies? Did you have a preference? What are some of the things that you told them to help them through the process?
Everybody likes being the vet because they know what to expect, they know what's coming. But in all seriousness, I enjoyed working with, there were so many more people in Visions of Truth in the cast. It was much larger than The Memory of Lies was. The off-camera camaraderie is fun, and the goofing around and the outtakes that nobody gets to see, hopefully. But I didn't really have any advice. Occasionally somebody would ask me a question, but for the most part it was really just kind of trying to figure out how they were working their characters, and doing the best that I could to adjust and adapt to that without really compromising Greg as a character. But I enjoyed it, and I look forward to meeting some more new faces in the next project.
Any advice for new actors coming into the industry, maybe that want to get going under an indie film like you did, or want to go professional?
Well, I don't know that I can help with professional advice, but in terms of the indie film, I know a guy who's a director. He could probably hook them up with a few roles if they wanted. But no, it's.
We'll put his link in the subcredits.
All right, sounds good. He's fun. He's a good guy. No. Acting is fun, and I think everybody at some level acts, whether they realize it or not, going through the way they live their lives. And doing it on camera gives you a license to be able to kind of become somebody else for a little while. And if you think you have an ability to be funny or to be serious or to be angry or whatever, it's a nice release from reality for a little while. So I would recommend it for people who are considering it. And like I said, Shield of Hope is a good place to get started.
Well, thank you, Scott.
Hey, you're welcome.